This is Gerald, Johan van Was, and some popular pop-outs of letter combinations. Within this first video, some of the popular subjects for people, and one of these popular subjects for people are names. Names have a meaning that can be derived to an ethnical meaning, but there are also some letter combinations meaning which in the past were investigated somewhat by numerology, but this time it's my turn to analyze names. And the first example is Bill. And of course you can explain letter combinations for names, but it needs a kind of different approach. And the approach is know this scheme very well. I will explain how I do it very quickly, but I will focus mainly on the results so that you can use the results. And because all the letters are in a system in which we look at those letters, you can see the I, we see the whole world, and every word is a world on its own, which has a starting point to discover. It has a developing stage, and it has an ending. These three regions, they all fit with letters. So depending on where you are in what you see, close by, far away, or in somewhat in between where it is developing, there are all the letters that are in a combination of these 3 points can be derived to a degree of one of these 3 regions. So it is either close by, it's developing further, or it is quite far away, we don't see it very well, it's at the limits, and it also will show us the limits as well. And the end of the word does that as well. So depending on where the letters are, depending on these 3 regions, we can reflect what the qualities are and how these qualities have a balance, a kind of yin-yang balance. And for the persons, every person starts with I. So with what I think, what I want, that's the number 1 that you see there, and that is the highlight there of what we think that we know. But we start with I, and we gradually discover what's in the world by estimation. When we have the elements that we need, the blue part, we do something with it. And once we are already experiencing what we can do with it, we come already to a first conclusion and see like, okay, we had already an experience with this. How far is this? Can this go? What is the reality? What can we do with it? And that's the first point where we have a different reflection. We have a reflection back to what we did. There it is the 0 point which is there, and this is also a reference point that we can use in our interpretation of names. So depending on which first letter you have in your name, it depends where you start from. Do you start really from what I want and I think and I will do this? Or are you into the interaction field? Or are you already somewhat reflecting back from I think I know already what I can do, and I will try to do something with it as an application. It's a totally different starting point. Depending on the starting points, we know how far the I is and how far the U is. The U is somewhat in the end of the green part, or the reflection starts to reconsider, let's say. It's the reconsidering stage of reflection, let's say. So, where does Bill start? Bill starts from the B Where is the B in my system? It's in the first part of the orientation. It is at the second stage, which is also the developing stage of the starting point. So we are already starting to have more parts that we can do something with. And it's in the last stage, so it's already extending beyond the normal formation. So it is already increasing itself. So what is Bill doing then? Each Bill will have a starting point in B, so it will be at the highlight of itself. Namely, it will extend itself in its full form. Whatever that can be, it can be, if you don't do anything in your life, your full form itself will fully form. Otherwise, if you're an intellectual person, you will also fully form this, will fully develop this. The second letter, the E, tells you what you do with it. So it's after the U, it's not about you, this is the reflection, so it was reflecting what it already did. So what is it? Or reinventing even, well, because it started here for the extending of oneself. And with the E, it will reinvent this. It is able to also reinvent this and apply this somewhere, this extension, wherever it wants to do this. This is actually a very fitting name for America. For America, this is very fitting for the environment. I will tell you why it will fit very well. It is because people who have a basis, for instance, in family history, in which they have developed society and they have interactions and so on, and there's a whole history behind it, they also have a heritage which they base up themselves upon, and they build up further on what their forefathers and the history and the environment all built up, and they have already something that reflects that in their being. That is one of the ways of thinking which you have for people who have some kind of blue blood in their veins, which happens a lot for people, for instance, who live in the Brabant area in Belgium. I know they have that a lot. They all have these connections with everything what happened in history. I have a whole history I can talk about that for hours, how that works, what happens there, and what is the advantage and so on. Other areas, what I know, for instance, in Belgium, for instance, they sometimes have a family history of that repeats itself the whole time for generations, that they have to survive. They have to survive, and some of them succeed very well. Like this is the other part of my family as well. I had a very large extensive research of my genealogy, and they build their lives and reinvent their lives again and again and again, each generation. And they do the same, and they have this environment of themselves, and that's their area, and they have it. It's basically still basing themselves upon themselves, and that kind of thinking fits very well with that starting point of that kind of starting point of B. America is also built on people who have to reinvent themselves all over again, because they no longer have a large history behind them, something that they build up from generation to generation. Mostly it can be from generation to generation, but it's more like I survived very well, I have some money, you have some extra money as well, and then you can develop this idea already further. So that approach fits very well with America. And this American dream is built upon upon that idea of creating the bills and making yourself the top of the bill. But is this the only choice that you can do with Bill? Because that fits very well with Bill, this going large in the land of the free, building the American dream as a Bill Clinton or Bill Gates or whatever bills there might be built on society. There are other ways, and it's possible that things can be interpreted differently starting from the B. But this kind of approach, with the name of Bill, will create that kind of American dream. So there's no other way. And it's from what they want, it's from the position of the B, from I want and I will do this and nobody can stop me. It's there in the name. And I will give you a completely opposite world. You have the American world, but you also have, for instance, the Middle Eastern world, where there are some of the completely opposite ideas. And I'm talking about spiritual way of thinking that is completely different. Here is the land of the free. In some of the Middle Eastern countries, they have the Islamic rules, and the Islamic rule is not the land of the free. It's the thinking of the bound to rules and regulations. It's not that it is a bad thing. It has developed from some certain areas where that is needed. I will show you an example. I have the second part of my book, Sound Informed, the application of the world. You see there a couple of symbols on them, letters actually, and the letter there that you see down there, it's the letter B of the Arabic world, and it is at the right place if you consider the 4 seasons here. I have here the natural colors that will fit with the seasons. Green for the spring, red for the summer, yellow for the harvest, and the blue for winter. And the B is there in winter. It's also in these conditions in a winter position, so at the minimal position. And it's so at the new starting point. The B is very important in the Arabic language for the Sufi teachings of Ibl'Arabi from Andalusia, where he lived. He had a very interesting thoughts about letters in the Arabic language and how they can be interpreted in a spiritual way. And it will be interesting because it will give you a contrast of what you could also do. And the best thing would be to behave somewhat in the middle. But I first explain what the B can be in this system. So you have here winter, spring, summer, harvest. The normal approach, if you would start from the B, in the primitive culture way, let's say, they have the B of the to be and making steps, or building houses, making spontaneous steps one by one until you have some experience. That's one way to go, and that's this scheme. And then where the B to be starts from just after winter, when the winter is already showing the light of the summer, when you can, for the first time, when in winter, you can see where the light is going to change, you go back to the light. That's one of the steps that you can do. The Islamic Sufi rule, which is based upon the Mohammed teachings, builds around them and explains it in a way that you still have some thoughts and extra elements that you can build around them, and then that you can do even more with them than before. And that's interesting, I think, because it also explains how you can how you have applications of a word system in another country, in another environment, in another setting, in another context, that delivers a different result, and it can be explained. I also had different colors for these sections, and it was also because it had a different starting point. It actually doesn't start in the light, it starts in the dark. It starts in the bounding. So you can only free yourself in this Islamic system if you first bound yourself to knowing what is not going well, and that the things didn't go well for a very long time, that we live more not in a heavenly condition, but we live in a situation where we constantly have a purgatory reminder of what can go wrong. And the root of this system is based in a country where it is extremely hot. So you have to act fast if you want to have a good solution. And what can you do best when you have a hot environment? When you have to act fast, you don't have much time to prepare and so on. It's better to depend on your history, on the past, on people that were before you. And that's exactly what it does. You don't have an individuality in that society. You only can create an individuality when you accept all what has already been dealt with in the past, so that you can act more quickly. So there are all set of rules already. We know already what you need to do when something goes wrong. Accept that. It was a system before Mohammed. It existed as well, but he tried to build it together, and the society itself built it further, and the whole people who were involved in it, especially this Sufi movement, which didn't exist too long, because it was never too popular outside its region, sadly, because this had really insights how you can start from that point of view. But you have to start from that point of view in situations where the things are not going well anymore. It is useful. So there's no individuality. You have to discover the group first. So there are built-in compensations, and all the letters are into the system. So you don't have, after you already develop these reminders, the next step will be the yellow, where you are attracted spontaneously to what can make your being bigger. If it's more spontaneous, of course, you have the red color, and then something comes out and it blossoms and you go further. Here it's the opposite around. You already have a compensation, so now you're attracted to what will bring a balance back into the yin and yang of colors here. But there's another built-in rhythm in the system of letters. So it's the built-in situation in that Sufi knowings says, now you can't have this spontaneous attraction. First learn the group record. So they also are also in the last stage, in the winter stage. It also tells you there are already imposed ideas. You have to accept them. That's the purple, which are lifted up into a higher region deliberately. And the cause of all this, the root of all this, is in the language. The language itself is not based upon the B, but it's more based upon sounds which the Western language don't have. It's the I really can't speak it, and I won't try to have all these sounds, which are basically skepticism. So it's skepticism. So they have a basic skepticism. They don't accept everything naturally, if they would follow their natural nature, they wouldn't accept everything for granted. By the imposed ideas, it also tells the people how to use that skepticism. That it's not a loose skepticism like you say, oh, this guy is doing that. No, don't be like that. There are a lot of rules. Follow these. You will get to know it. And after then, when you really know all these things, you have an individuality. So this whole system of letters, which you can see here, which also has astrology, by the way, says that the B of the development is restricted. So they not like Bill, unlike Bill, if he would try to reinvent himself in this system, he would have a very hard time, because then he really have to work on himself very hard, and he won't have a very large position in society. He has to build himself upon the past. The other Bills, especially the Bills in America, they start from a very short past. So they don't have to deal with anything. They deal with immediately their own starting point, which is there in the beginning, not very far from I. So there will be slightly tendency to be quite selfish and although they will do that in society by reinventing themselves, by reinventing their ideas, what they think, how they can become better. And here you see the whole development expressed in this scheme. What will happen? You have the B, there it starts from. That's the development. And it ends in I, and I'll have it a little bit better in the next slide. So if you can see, it is the B wants to develop itself, so it is the starting point. The next part in the word is the E, so it goes towards development. It's already development. It's of course it is still learning how it should develop, but it has the ability to renew itself in the E, as you can see. In the E, that's the first part of this. That's the 0 point where you can fit in anywhere. In society, anywhere it can fit, and it will fit from its own development, and it makes its own desire. That's why the L is before, and its desire will make it even bigger. So Bill will have that kind of approach. As a last bonus, I will also express it with sign language, as I always say. I have a kind of sign language in which you can sense the letters and how they are combined much more easily. And I will try that. If it doesn't work well, okay, have to repeat it a little bit. We are much more open to sign languages. How they can be understood is much more easy than forms, much more easy sometimes even than certain concepts and thoughts, and new thoughts especially. But we can understand signs very well. It's hard to understand why, but if you see at the development of humankind, of people, you can ask that someone who knows about how people evolved. There's a lot of time. There's a large time frame where the brain developed first the understanding of sign language, and then after that it was filled in by letters as well. So we have. It is possible to express certain signs and understand the movement, the effect, and I can express that actually very quickly. And just if you see the effects already immediately, you can connect these effects quite easily in your brain once you do this. So you have to do that. So the B is really like that. You feel that it's breaking open. That's the B. The E is, as you can see, it's like an idea. Oh, I have an idea. And the L is this feeling. It's like you have a marble and you push it forward. Not too much, not like you have to give it even an extra power, but just enough to bring it forward. That's the L. And if you combine these, B-I-L-L, you also just do that a few times and you will read it and notice what will be the most dominant thing that is expressed with bill. You know already bill is also a bill. So, and the bill can be seen here very well. So you have, you can almost see the counting, it's breaking up, it's getting better. Oh, you say, yes, good, and ups, let the money flow. That's why actually bill is only in it for the money. Sorry for that. So here you can see the movements and the L, you see, you can see that it easily brings out the whatever it is. It's not a fantasy, it's based upon everything I know, and it works. If you have a different order and you have different words, they work as well because they give the different emphasis on the first part of the movement or the second part of the movement. It will change the effect of the combination of letters completely. But in bill, it's very clear. Here the B will break it open. The I will easily fit in a new idea, a new application. Wherever it can renew itself and can get bigger, it will find its place. In the end, it will create material, whatever that is. It can be money, of course, if that's one of the most important things of a country. Building up the country, make it big. American dream. It's a good name if you want to get rich. Choose for Bill. Thanks for watching. This was Gerald van Waas. There's a website too. There's a YouTube channel which you discovered, and there you can find more instructions, more demonstrations of or more popular pop-outs. Thank you very much. Bye bye.